Greetings everybody, we are at 906 Kingston Road. This is going to be an overview of this roof after we've marked it up. As you can see, we've identified slopes A, B, C, and so forth. We've identified damage here. We have on this particular slope, we have 23 shingles identified from wind and 6 on slope B. The plus annotates that we do not believe that it is repairable. We have not tested that yet, but based on the age and condition of this 19-year-old 3-tab, 20-year 3-tab roof, we believe it is not repairable. That is what the plus means. So come down here. There's a couple things to note. First off, you have clear missing shingles and you have some creases. Now it's important to note there's also the presence of, I'll zoom in here, of crazes or thermal cracking. Now you can tell that, is it thermal cracking or is it wind? Or maybe it's both. Right? Thermal cracking is usually wear and tear. So does it lift? Is that seal broken? In this case right here, it is not. Be careful, you don't want to lift up on an older shingle like this, it will just shred. But come down here, it's much more pronounced. A gentle lift up, and see, oh, that has broken. This one too, gentle, and yes, that has. So, which came first? The crease from the cracking, or that dark line there, or the seal giving out, and then the wind lifting up? We don't know. And unless you're on the roof watching it, you're never going to know. So you have to use a combination of science, induction, and some good old common sense. So what is creasing and cracking, this kind of thing? It's a science lesson. I'm not going to get into it too much here, but I do have an article available for study. So we have here, we have a little more. Again, it lifts, and that is the pinch point. Again here, right along the hinge point. So have some more marks there. A nice big tarp here, another one there. Not a fan of how they did that, but they had to put it in somehow. So sometimes you just got to do the best you can with what you have. So this is slope A. Come up here, we have slope B. It's 6 shingles. Not as bad, but again, we have another tarp here. We did not install these tarps, at least personally. So again, you do the best you can with what you have. The wind has caused some damage to this gutter. As you can see, it's flopping, and it has ripped off some of the hangers here, there, and there. One thing to point out, when you're at a roof design like this, it's a real good idea. It's real convenient to check, do you have multiple layers? In this case, it's real easy to spot. Just carefully lift up and poof, hello, second layer of shingles. At least second layer of shingles. Here we have another one. This is slope C. And see, real gentle, right like that. So, it's pipe jack. Note how the mastic sealant around there is gone. So, yeah. So come here, our total component count: 3 pipe jacks, 2 turtle vents, 1 satellite, and 1 furnace vent. Now where's the furnace vent? It's inside that faux chimney. So when they do a replacement, they're going to have to lift that entire thing off. There's a wood frame inside there that they will have to redo as well. So we have more of these craze marks, right? But does it lift all the way across? Yes, it does. However, here's his cousin, right? That's a little more faint. Does it lift? No, it does not. And if you're not careful, like right here, right, that's what can happen. So be very careful here. Now that's not too big a deal, but if you're not careful, it can rip and shred. So just be careful out there, guys. Here again, whoop, and whoop. But right here, anything? Nope, well, it's starting to go, but yeah, it's not all the way. So this one, nope, not at all. And again, on this one we have 13. Defining feature on this hip and ridge roof is hips. it's important to identify what kind of shingle are they using here. Did they just use a 3-tab and cut it? In this case, no. This is an actual hip shingle. So they installed it right. You can do that by measuring. You can do it by looking at it. In this case, we could tell by looking at it. You see there's a cut there. That is specific to hip bridge shingles. If it was 3-tab, it'd be straight all the way up. So sometimes you can tell just by looking at it right there. See how it comes up and then juts out like that? That's a hip shingle. We have our turtle vent. This is slope D. Not as much damage as we're coming over here. There's our satellite dish. Shingle, 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 shingle. So again, nothing on this slope. So the damage is getting less and less as we're moving farther away from where the wind struck. On slope F, we have 9 shingles. Now some of that is the consequential damage relating to the install of the tarp, but direct physical loss from the actual wind is more closer to 5 or 6. We did not lift this particular tarp. Every time you take a tarp up, you're going to end up causing more damage. So given the condition of this roof, that's not something we're going to do. But you can see there is damage there. You can see there's a missing shingle there. And the adjuster's report did mention there are damaged shingles under there. You can also kind of put your hand on there and feel under there, and there are missing shingles under there. Don't recommend you walking on a tarp like this. You never know what's under there. Heaven forbid there's a hole or a really soft spot, and then down you go into the insured's living room, and that's not a good situation for anybody. And then back we are here at slope C. So we've walked the whole roof. Not a particularly big roof. Fairly easy to walk. I think we vary between 5 and 6 out of 12 on the slope. We do have overlapping closed valleys. So that is a great example here of why when you work on a slope here or you work on a slope here, you can't just stop here. Because when you lift up a shingle here, all right, you have to go all the way through here, and that means you have to lift this up, and well, that's not great. That's an issue for another day. But this cuts under and goes all the way up here. All right, so you see how far in that goes. So this one too, and that one, so on, so on. So when you pull a shingle, you have to lift this and this and this. That effectively have to lift these shingles up. When you're working on this side, the nails are driven through there. So that means you have to lift these shingles up. It kind of crosses over. It's a little easier to take it from this side than that side, just pulling nails. But you may have to take shingles from that side too, depending if it's overlapping or if it's tied together, blended in, or if it's just overlapping. But then you come into how this is tied in. These are often blended together, kind of like those old-fashioned crisscross apple pies. So that makes it more complicated. So if you have work over here, then the work on this slope affects this slope, affects that ridge, which affects that slope. Makes it real difficult for your roofer to do just an isolated or localized patch or repair. Another thing to identify here is, even if with all that stuff isolated, if they were just doing like the house ended right here, you still have incidents and issues right here where this tab, this shingle, which actually it's right there, so this is 2 separate shingles, but it comes up here. In order to replace this shingle, you actually have to lift this ridge cap. So this shingle, you have to take that shingle up, and that one actually wraps up over. Well, what you're not seeing is as this comes up, this shingle over here also wraps over there. Now you heard, I'm sure you probably heard a lot about underlayment overwrap, which is the felt paper or the synthetic that's underneath the bottom layer of shingles, and how that goes 18 to 24 inches over the other side, and that's very true. But on a functional side, and that's code, but on a functional side, you have this shingle which overlaps here, that shingle as well overlaps here. Just to get this shingle, you have to take these top 2 layers of shingles out. So, and they may not necessarily line up with this shingle. So you could be taking this one and this one that I'm sitting on out, which goes all the way over there and all the way over here. But these aren't necessarily going to line up, so you could be looking way over there or way over there. It could be a nightmare. And by the way, you got to lift these up. And then you have the code, which says when you take these ridge caps and the shingles up, you can't reuse them. So at that point, then you got to put new shingles in, and heaven help you if you can't find something compatible. So we're already dealing with a 20-year shingle. Good luck trying to find something compatible. Maybe you can. Another issue to be aware of is when you have shingles on a rake. Remember, a rake is the diagonal portion of the roof going up. When you're dealing with repairs on a rake, any repair or work on a rake immediately requires drip edge. Whether it's pre-existing and you're dealing with like kind of quality, or it's not, which triggers a code upgrade. Regardless, you now have to install drip edge. Drip edge does not just run a tiny little section. Drip edge has to be installed the entire run. You can't just say, okay, drip edge is a little section. It doesn't install properly. It's not a proper install. So that section, yeah, you can kind of say that's a little chintzy to just do a whole run like that. But now you have that, which is really, remember, it's 2 shingles up. So this one to there, and then that one to there. So you're looking about 4 to 5 feet of the rake. Yeah, now you're talking, you're gonna have to run drip edge up, which means pulling shingle, 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 shingle. Now, can you lift up the shingles you aren't working with? Yeah, possibly. If the shingles can be lifted up and manipulated without breaking them. Fortunately, hey, there's a shingle here that blew off, and it's been there for a minute. Flew off from, I'm guessing, hey, it fits from there. So what happens when you fold it once? Look at that big fat crease. It almost broke apart. Oh, a huge crack. So that's what happens when you fold it even a little bit. That's about 30 degrees, and holy smokes, that's brutal. And you can see it from 2 feet away. That's ugly. Imagine doing that on every single one of the shingles. It just destroy it. So our previous theory that this roof is not repairable, kind of proven there. We'll still do some tests, but that's kind of where we're at. So this is the whole roof. Some common things to look out for. We do have some other issues going on with the way the roof is constructed, some common pitfalls. So if there's any questions, please feel free, reach out to me. You can call, you can text, you can email, you can send a message in the chat. Otherwise, I'll see you all around the horn.